Aloha, beautiful family on the planet. We Bliss here, dropping in to do a little love stream check-in as our beautiful human family collectively synthesizes and unifies into a magnificent synarchic organism of nature. Yay, that's pretty cool. So I just felt to do a little touch in today on what I've been referring to, and of course it's an expression that's been around for a long time called the cult of personality, and to just continue to provide what I can to contribute to this great transformation. And part of that great transformation is inviting and inspiring all of us to step forward and offer whatever gifts we have to offer. If ever there was a moment for the collective to step forth and not just hope and expect others to do it for them, it is now. It is all hands on deck. Everyone sharing their gifts, sharing their experiences of transformation and transfiguration, everyone coming out from behind the veils to gift what we have learned on our journey of unifying the polarities of the shadow and the city, and really recognizing that this is a global event that is calling forth all participation. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, we're going back to our favorite Richard Rudd's Gene Keys. Thank you, Richard Rudd, because he did such a great synthesis to flow from. So the cult of personality is basically that what we call the matrix, which is really many, many different collaborative agreements and communications. We're coming out of a very dense Western matrix that required a degree of indoctrination to hold people within it. And in that great unraveling of that indoctrination and true leadership rising up inside of each human, as each human faces their fears with courage and steps through them through conscious action, conscious communication, and conscious participation in the willingness to face the fear and move through it. That is unbinding. It is dissolving what we call the matrix. So we've talked about this, many different miracles in different ways, and we're going to share it from the cult of personality place. Everybody within the play had a role in the play, and all of those roles were interwoven like a tapestry, a fabric. And as each person removes their consent from continuing to play the high drama of the polarized role in the play, the script that was activated in someone's genetics and playing out through their human biocircuitry, through their words, thoughts, deeds, actions. As each of we find coherence, and the planetary body is helping us to do that with all of the planetary shifts and changes, coherence allows that fabric, which we've often referred to as like a straitjacket. Coherence allows the threads of the tapestry of that fabric to loosen up. And as they do, humans experience a release of endorphins and good neurotransmitters in the body, like serotonin and vasopressin and dopamine and all these other good things that give us a greater experience of expansiveness and love and connectivity. And that's because the veil, called the personality, is dissolving away. And as it does, as the Hopi prophecy said, many will hold on to the edge of the river. They will be afraid to let go of the personality itself. So we can see all through the world in different arenas, all kinds of arenas, even in the spiritual New Age arena. A lot of people refusing to let go of the personality role in the play. As we all recognize that by holding on tightly to the edge of the shore, as the Hopi said, to that personality role in the play, that's the only thing holding the tapestry of what we call the matrix together, is the only thing. So as we just hold coherence, which we often share, is cross your ankles, cross your wrists, clasp your hands, close your eyes, and deep breathe. As we hold coherence in whatever ways we know how to do it, just as we've shared many, many miracles, that Houdini showed us how to release ourselves from the straitjacket of the personality. He didn't fight against it. He held stillness through the breath. And the straitjacket just naturally fell off his body. Because when one pushes against with resistance to the straitjacket or the personality, it gets tighter. And that causes a sense of constriction. And so this all goes to the 60th gene. So we often speak about these genes and these genetics because that's what we are transcending collectively. And one of the things about the genetics and the roles in the play that were scripted is there are shortcut, fast-track ways for humanity to release consent to that role in the play. And it is easeful to say these various ways because there's certain things that people still participate in that are at the foundation of the structure of the physical matrix. And the physical matrix is non-sentient. It's not a living being. It is a structure created by thought. So as we remove our consent, everyone who's playing their part inside of those structures also awakens and their veils come off. So we always talk about no borders, boundaries, taxes, passports, driver's license, house insurance, car insurance. All of these things are part of what hold together the matrix. And each time someone signs those little forms of consent, they may consciously or unconsciously, mostly, don't know that they are perpetuating the existence of the actual structure of the system. And again, this message is for everyone. It doesn't matter what role anyone plays inside of any system. This is a unity consciousness message, so it's not biased and it's not about separation. It's about liberation, to understand that there are certain things that allow us to quickly dissolve the matrix together if we so choose to. Otherwise, people will continue to find their way through kindness and love because the compression of resistance to nature, which is connectivity, and love will increase and become more intense, and that straitjacket gets even more constrictive. And so one of the things in the Gene Keys says that the more that people hold on to the unconscious aspects or hidden agendas of the ego and hide away with those hidden agendas, the more constrictive and difficult life will become for those versions of the self. So this is all about conscious communication now. It's one of the things in the transmission. Conscious communication is key to discovering that all of the hard work that we have been doing internally has truly made a difference through our willingness to have continual conscious communication on all of these topics. Conscious communication in relations where there has been a lack of forgiveness or where there has been constriction or fear, to have conversations with friends about what's really going on inside of one's awareness and consciousness. All these areas of our lives together are access points to humanity's full liberation. because through conscious communication, we will discover that we are one collective being, and we have all been going through the same process together. And sometimes one person's articulation consciously of the shift or the change, or talking about the systems and structures that are archaic, that do not serve self-empowered leadership, are not necessary for the continuation of our human consciousness. In fact, by continuing to participate in systems and structures as they have been, many of those structures are very limiting for the new children coming in. And they continue to impress upon the new children old patterns of. So why don't we all just unravel this for the new consciousness and the children of love that are programmed genetically through the genes to arrive in totality in time, even though time isn't real, in 2027. It is the dismantling, and it is the awareness of our power to remove our consent safely, in totality, freely. That's part of this message. Because everything that has been in resistance has merely been disharmonic energies playing through us. So we are just sharing to our human family things for contemplation. Most of the spiritual new age is still participating at the level of the structure of the matrix. And in doing so, that continues the fabric of. And so that's part of the cult of personality piece that we are here to share about. And in the 60th gene is all about containers that allow magic to flow. And we're just going to touch in this quickly, and then we're going to handstand class. So Richard points out, and this is all about separation consciousness that humans have been operating inside of, to release in totality the script in the blueprint. This is what will allow that tapestry that is merely held together by the cult of personality, the strands of the personalities all bound together are what has created the matrix. And as it's coming apart, all kinds of new matrices and matrices are forming through common consent of people finding groups of resonance. So new structures are actually entirely new realities are forming simultaneously. So as we come to that place of awareness that we're not our personality or our ego, we have a choice to override the ego. One of the things we often share is that the lymphatic breath is a direct way of overriding the patterns of the ego. Breath patterns hold the ego personality in place inside the waters of our body. So we have lots of links here for breath work and breath play and unity transmissions and more of this understanding. Also, what we have included in the description box is a quote by Yogananda. And Yogananda speaks about when his beloved teacher was helping him to dismantle the ego and how painful it felt, how uncomfortable it was. So this is one of the things in human awareness to know. Humans are very uncomfortable with releasing the edge of the river of the personality cult. But like it or not, it's happening. So we're just providing little bits and pieces, jumping around here and there for our human contemplation. So a lot of the spiritual new age ego feels that new scenarios that are playing out are the stages to jump to. That's still part of 8th wave, Carl Kalaman, 9 waves of creation. That is still part of 8th wave consciousness and lesser, which continues to we're having a moment of words, which continues to perpetuate the game of good, bad, right, wrong, or separation. Full awakening is our awareness that we are pure source consciousness. There's nothing to fix. There is just us here in creation. And so that's why we share these transmissions in such a way that just provide direct access to that pure source awareness. So lymphatic breath overrides the patterns of breath that perpetuate the existence of the role in the play called the personality or the ego. In the 60th gene, Richard kindly says, more often than not, okay, because we humans think in terms of morality, we generally see justice in terms of punishment and reward. More often than not, we see it in terms of retribution. Even our most sophisticated spiritual and scientific systems think of life in terms of cause and effect or karma. This is due to the limitation of being caught in a dualistic reality. However, the true concept of justice is not bound by laws at all. It is the transcendence of the belief of good, bad, right, wrong. It is the transcendence of morality, the 60th gene. This 60th gene says when the 60th city ignites in multiple beings, it will be the end of the world as we know it. And Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness will move forth into a new reality in the blink of an eye. Transcendent. This gene is transcendent of time and gravity. So we're just providing a little bit of synthesis to understand that for any of our human family that is wondering why things feel like they do right now, that's because the dismantling is happening, because so many have withdrawn their consent from the tapestry of the fabric that was creating the reality, which means also stepping back from identification with the egoic personality that was playing a role in the play. And so for many who did not choose to step away, the tapestry is falling away anyways. And so it can be quite startling and uncomfortable for those who held on to the edge of the shore tightly when the Hopi prophecy said, push ourselves into the middle of the river, keep our head above water, and celebrate, for this could be a time of celebration. Look around, see who is with us, and celebrate. So it's really about coming to this place of neutrality and coherence inside of the self. One of the things that we say about the revelations written about in the Bible is that Revelations was turned into this crazy interpretation of some simplistic steps called yoga, called meditation, called breath, called cold water, called plant-based diet, called fasting, and all of these same things that have been shared by all of the traditions to bring us out of identification with ego or personality and back in alignment with source consciousness and the oneness of everything. And so, yes, if people are feeling like their whole world is falling apart right now, that is just because so many removed their consent and held coherence, and the whole fabric of the tapestry of that collective agreement called duality in the matrix is now completely dissolved. So what to do if one is in a place of feeling kind of like they're walking in both worlds? The piece that we have shared in many of the YouTube videos about breath and cold water is consistency with breath and cold water combined allows the spiritual essence to infuse the physical body. And as the spiritual essence, the higher spiritual essences come in, they start to turn off the lower circuitry of separation, of pain, of suffering. And so we begin to feel very neutral about life. And simultaneously, we discover we have all of this energy. And this is where to know thyself and stay out of the arena of distraction, because people can continually go down this investigative rabbit hole and this investigative rabbit hole and this investigative rabbit hole to try and figure out what is going on and read the astrology and this and that and so on. When that's part of one of the distraction gene, which is one of the stop codons to stop humanity from awakening. Distraction, forgetfulness, vanity. Vanity, the final piece, is the persistence to want to play the role in the play. And because some still wanted to play the play and many were ready to collapse it, who for many years and decades have been holding coherence in all shapes and sizes and colors and bloodlines and families and indigenous and star nations, just holding neutrality for the collapse of the drama-based genetics that play out at the shadow frequency. So again, what to do if we're just in this state of holding coherence and wondering what else we can do to change? Well, we invite the human family to look inside of our creations where we're still giving our conscious consent to the systems by signing our signature to tax forms, to driver's licenses, to insurance, to all kinds of systems that actually are part of the old matrix systems that say that we require an authority outside of ourself to govern us. So the oracle inspires leadership by reading what is out on the cutting edge. The oracle has to clear the field, be completely neutral to share what is on the cutting edge. It's non-moral, it's non-judgmental. The guidance is just saying that the next piece for our collective human family at 8th wave consciousness and lesser, which is just about the 9 waves of creation and the holographic nature of reality, for many of our spiritual New Age family, still perpetuating consent through the very basic mechanisms that perpetuated the carbon-based reality, through the automobile, through cartels, and through borders and boundaries that were perpetuated by indoctrination and fear dynamics. There is nothing to fear anymore. So the fastest way to make the transformation is for our spiritual family, who is already very expanded and awake, to recognize, to really contemplate, to look, why am I still participating in that kind of system? Is it because there is unconscious fear and suppression that says I have to participate and give my compliance to those systems, guaranteed as an oracle that reports in neutrality? This will be the fastest way to dismantle everything that is still perpetuating some sense of resistance to that which we already know is here and ripe and ready in the field to create entirely new realities. Free energy devices and the connection to the earth, the reflection of transformation of the entire automobile industry, unplug, remove our consent from, because we are the free energy. We are source consciousness in form, and there has never been a single thing that we have been fighting outside of ourselves. We came to this great experience for the opportunity to come into a physical body to transform through remembering the process of inner alchemy to turn these free energy devices, light ships, on in totality. And there is a morphogenic field of consciousness that is sourcing and pulsing and just waiting for this articulation to come with such precision to turn light bulbs on and turn old switches off of unnecessary programmed pattern behavior and compliance of where we place our energy consciously and unconsciously. So by just having the articulation, which is what the oracle does, provides it with precision such that people can unlock themselves from program pattern behavior. We are a collective consciousness. This is coming through my mouth because it is in the field on the cutting edge now as an answer to the question to so many that are wondering, what is holding us back? What is taking so long? Why does the external continue to perpetuate itself in the way that it appears to, even though it's not? Our transfiguration has been changing everything inside of us, and that's why one of the things we really invite is conscious communication, just like this transmission today, for all of us to step forth and share our voices of what we know within to be true. We have decoded and understand in totality how all the old systems were made and what all those old systems were based on. So as a collective that comes forth in conscious communication, we discover everybody feels and knows the same things, feels the same way, or a collective consciousness does. And the 60th gene says when multiple beings, when the 60th city, which is the transcendence of the separation, the transcendence of the script we have been playing in the cult of personality, of any kind of separation or duality or morality. When we see it for what it is, stages and scenes and sets, to have experiences for our expansion, and know that we are done in totality with all of these experiences in these physical sets in the play. When multiple beings step back and say, there's nothing left to question, because we've found the truth within to remember that we were playing a play. And we created many, many stages through thought projection and through collaboration and collective consensus. That's what wove the tapestry together. And in unbinding the tapestry now, these small, seemingly small pieces, when one contemplates aspects of the old systems that they are still participating in. We are here to say, as an oracle who is reading in neutrality on the cutting edge, it is not necessary to continue to give consent to antiquated systems. And we will discover, if we have the courage to step beyond the beliefs of imaginary borders, boundaries, taxes, passports, and all the other things that we've listed, we will discover versions of ourselves in all of those areas and systems that get it too. They go, I've been sitting here contemplating this very same thing about this job that I do. And we've seen this over the years, people stepping forth, retiring from, making public statements, leaving the government, leaving the military, leaving the policing systems, because all those systems had the word enforcement in their name. And humanity has grown up and matured through the principle of love, which is simply our capacity for neutrality to collapse the polarity back inside of ourselves. And now, the removal of consent, which is just an unnecessary programmed pattern behavior. Just like when an animal that's been on a 10-foot chain their whole life and the chain is cut and the animal stays in that 10-foot radius. That is where our collective awakened family is hanging out right now. So it is to step beyond by testing, and we've been sharing this for years. Step beyond by testing those indoctrinated, programmed areas where one feels they must continue to comply because the systems are non-sentient. They were created by collective thought. And we Bliss spent enough time in the underworld and behind the scenes with many people who were involved in the systems, who were all serving themselves to unlock and unplug themselves from the systems, to remove them, their consent to become private citizens, sovereign. And it doesn't require paperwork. It requires one holding coherence, not suppressing fear. This is about unifying conscious, unconscious, and superconscious here, which is why we shared. The book of Revelations was a bunch of boggled words to create confusion about how simplistic it is to do this. Lymphatic breath, cold showers, plant-based diet, meditation, yoga. To claim authority over the lower 3 chakras called the throne. To claim sovereign authority of one's true throne, which is one's avatar, one's physical body. And those things that we share, that are shared in every esoteric tradition of enlightenment, those things assist one's consciousness to override the lower nature that runs the avatar when those lower chakras are disconnected from all the higher ones. And so once one claims authority of the throne, I'm missing my handstand class to complete this transmission. Once one claims authority over the throne, then there is massive cosmic energy now. When we go internal and consciously commune with all the realms of consciousness that are guiding us to show us step by meticulous step inside of the self through consistency of these practices. We shared in a previous transmission, Wim Hof said, breath, cold water, and consistency. Simply that allows one to claim this stillness, this coherence. This is what true sovereignty is. And so in that true sovereignty, then when one is walking one foot in both worlds and going, I'm still kind of confused. Maybe I'll do some more research and try to figure out what's going on. But the 4th gene is about the transcendence of any further need to understand logically. We don't need any more logical understanding to know that nature is transforming us from the inside out. So the fourth gene is the annihilation of any more questions. No more research necessary if we are interested to take the shortcut. Because as we've shared many miracles, Richard Rudd showed us in the 35th gene, as though the gods created a shortcut out of the machine that they created, the computer they created that has its own evolutionary timing. That's the systems, their own evolutionary timing. But we are not bound to those evolutionary structural systems if we so choose to exit. So coherence is key, because the 35th gene says love in as many areas of our life as possible. And what we always say love is coherence, the capacity to collapse any sense of separation. So any kind of thought of separation inside of ourselves is the miracle coordinate to keep allowing a refinement of those particles in our awareness to be returned to source consciousness, such that our field has no resistance. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it right now. There's a little share button somewhere down there so others can see it live. The gift here, Bruce Lee told us, flow like water, my friends, is about finding the energy of non-resistance in the form. So it is a continual, thank you, Candace, it is a continual process of stillness, refinement, attunement to subtle essence. Oh, is there a little resistance here? Is there a little fear coming up there? We're here to say there's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. We have done all the work to unbind ourselves from the matrix of fear and love. We'll say them as opposites. We have unbound ourselves. So even though it may still kind of look like all around us things are the same, they're not. And it is to continue to move through the process of refinement, because ohms of resistance, called electrical matrix, are the only thing that keep us separate from oneness with everything, energetically, union with source consciousness in the form. That's why the 60th gene and other genes, specifically the 60th gene, is transcendent of time and gravity. And who might, just by listening to this transmission, all of a sudden feel very light and suddenly feel like something is happening in their body. Because in the space between the words of this transmission is pure source consciousness streaming in, so that we can feel it right here, right now, to know that we're not carbon, we're not bound as pure source essence to the physical. We're not bound. We are both physical and non-physical. And in this space of non-resistance, all personality dissolves away. The fabric of what we came from is literally annihilated. And as we hold this space, the supernatural mystic circuitry of our physicality turns on in the blink of an eye. And Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness move forth collectively into a new reality. So through the conscious communication of just sharing, where fear may still have been held on an unconscious level to comply with antiquated systems that are non-sentient, there's been a great relaxation and revelation in the field of all of we who are present. And because as a species, our DNA is communicating non-locally, this transmission and all who are present is communicating to all DNA simultaneous. And this is how powerful we are when we step forth in conscious communication and share our gifts. Because just this one love stream, to speak about some of those pink elephants in the room that so few on stages are speaking about. In fact, I haven't heard any speaking about those things like borders and boundaries and taxes and passports. Because as the oracle, highest frequency of the oracle is humility, to just allow whatever is out there in the consciousness to stream through the words. For the collective to hear what is already in the field unspoken and bring it forth in a neutral, unattached way. No self-serving purpose, just as a vehicle of nature, an agent of nature called source consciousness. So even just by contemplating those places in our life where we are still holding resistance to conscious communication with friends or family or people, or stepping out on the stage or talking about things that really matter to us, while possibly still compromising and existing in relations in a superficial way. That's such a waste of life and energy. And conscious communication is our key now. We're being reminded right now that many miracle years ago, we went to a 5-day retreat with Bruce Lipton. And Bruce showed a petri dish of neurons, which are brain cells. And the first petri dish was filled with little neurons that had just been placed in the petri dish. And when one neuron had a thought, it emitted a recordable photon of light. So it was like a little light bulb flashing. And you could actually see it in the video. It went flash. And then the next little neuron next to it went flash. And then the next one, and it was like the wave around the football stadium. Because those neurons, one neuron had an idea, and it shared the idea. It just shared it. It just allowed that idea from source to flow through it, to be energetically expressed through it. And then the next little neuron got it. And that's why the next little neuron flashed. And then the next little neuron got it. And it flashed. And so that source emanation that came through one little neuron got carried through the entire petri dish as neuron after neuron flashed. And so Bruce was like, "It's so cool. But watch this." And he showed the next video, and it was a video of neurons that had been in a petri dish for an extended period of time. And all the neurons flashed simultaneously because they all got it. But it started with one neuron allowing the emanation of that source code flash to flow through it as a full expression. One of the posts we made the other miracle day is it takes courage to override the egoic limitation. It takes courage. It takes courage to draw one's power and consent back from the entire game. It takes coherence, and it takes a kind of awareness that realizes that we're here, we were sent, we came for this very miracle coordinate to dissolve the veil of separation that has perpetuated for aeons the experience of suffering. The Star Knowledge Bundles, the 1111 prime frequency says, Earth called out to be uplifted from apocryphal darkness. The Venusian masters came. The Bodhisattvas of Andromeda came. Bodhisattvas come to bring an end to all suffering. This is how we did it, because it's already done. And this is really just a message from the future to all of us in the present, to realize the power to withdraw our consent from unnecessary, patterned, programmed behaviors to continue to participate in antiquated systems. If this love stream was inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Sir Winston Churchill said, "There's nothing to fear but fear itself," but he was wrong. There's nothing to fear, including nothing. This is the next part of our expansive step. To teleport in our light ships without the old participation in those systems. The Hawaiians on Kauai knew these key linchpin pieces of unplugging the systems, because the Hawaiians who started the Kingdom of Atui movement, they just went out and made their own license plates because they understood the depth when you go down these rabbit holes of insurance and taxes and passports, birth certificates and all those things. They got it. So they consciously made a symbolic statement when they were making their stand for the independence of Kauai and the Hawaiian Islands. But this is not about rebellion. This is not about fighting anything. This is about providing precise articulation to understand that the systems are non-sentient. They were created through collective consent. And as we say, we spent enough miracle coordinates in the back office of those who understood the structure and workings of the systems, who were all quickly working to unplug themselves from these very systems. So as a sister of my human family, I speak here humbly to invite us to see that when we participate in unnecessary pattern program behavior and perpetuate that, we are the very perpetuators of the old systems and the old physicality of 90-degree angles and asphalt roads. And we understand that much of our cosmic family right now is created absolutely paradisical creations to be living in. Because each being has the sovereign authority to create in totality. We were sent as a messenger on behalf of the Mahatmas, and many other lineages to inspire and invite all the awakened ones, the awakened aspects of ourself, to step forth to speak out, consciously communicate. Don't hide behind the veils. Don't hide in the closets. Don't hide under the covers. It happens through the dissolution of the separation within us, through our sovereign authority to communicate in Lakesh. In Lakesh, Alakin, Namaste. I am another you, you are another me, we are one. Calling out to all who came to this planetary creation in response to the 1111 prime frequency that Chief Golden Light Eagle speaks about in the Star Knowledge Bundles. And it is our willingness to acknowledge that we've played roles in a play. And our capacity to dismantle those roles, to be and live in a peaceful way. The Dalai Lama said the Western women would change or save the world. So it's truly about our capacity to speak openly publicly about what we know and the things that we've seen. the things that we learned, and what we can share for the true unlocking and unplugging of our human family. Because there's a lot of spiritual teachers on this stage that we have not heard or seen them sharing these very obvious pieces. So we love we thank we dance with we celebrate with we. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Ahui ho.